Hey everyone, my name is Leo Young and this is Impressive Graphics News, and let me ask you a question. Are you a fan of the CW TV shows? Well, you are. I have some bad news. So DC is back again at their old tricks. According to the CW co-showrunner Marc Guggenheim, fan favorite character Slade Wilson, also known as Deathstroke, is said to now be off limits for Arrow. Slade's importance to the show has been decreasing over the years since being the main villain of season 2. He's popped up here and there, starting as a villain, starting as an enemy, then slowly becoming a friend or an acquaintance of Oliver. And in the most recent season, one we're on now, he was sent off. And the way they let him off really did just say, he's gone. I didn't get that he'll be back. I felt he's gone. He walked off into the smoke. They had the characters like Shadow billowing in the smoke, and I was like, he's gone. That's a permanent send-off. Now, during an interview with Discussing Films, a small YouTube channel, at the Ace Comic-Con, Guggenheim spoke about some of the points of the CW shows. At one point, he openly came out and said that the reason that Slade is no longer available on the show is because of the cinematic version of Deathstroke that we saw in Justice League. During the interview, he said these things. These are DC's characters. We're just renting them, So we use the characters that they tell us we can use when we can use them, and we work around the limitations. For a time, they were saying you can't use Deathstroke. Then that changed and we were able to have Slade Wilson back on the show, and now we're back to you can't use him. Well, when they're working on the feature film, it really is sort of now that you've got obviously Slade. Spoiler alert, Deathstroke appears at the end of the Justice League movie. Now, this wouldn't be the first time that DC has done this. In the earlier season of Arrow, I want to say the last season, the Suicide Squad was completely removed from the show due to the movie coming out. And it's an annoying thing that DC has done for a while. The fans call this the character embargo, and it was kind of set by Christopher Nolan when he was doing his Batman trilogies. He didn't want Batman showing up in any other live action movies or TV shows. He just wanted, unless it was related to, not even then, because he was like, Batman is grounded in a realistic world, so that's where we're going to keep him. And DC or Warner Brothers was like, you're making us the money, you're in charge of this, even though he was only in charge. It's a very annoying thing, and it's really annoying. I keep saying it's really annoying because it's like the biggest proponent against this idea of the character embargo is the Flash. He has his own TV show. He has 4 seasons. He has his own cast, and he's also in the Justice League movie. When DC came out and said we are going to do a Flash TV show, people were like, okay, so we're finally getting rid of this character embargo. We will see characters in the movies and in the TV shows. And then it started getting a little disturbing, because not disturbing but more disturbing, people were thinking the reason that they allowed the Flash to have a TV show is because he's one of those characters that can travel back and forth between dimensions and timelines. So they were like, since nobody else can do that, only Flash can do it, it was kind of like a way for DC to one day probably go let's do this major event where movie universe characters or TV characters kind of see each other. They don't speak, but one day Grant Gustin's running and then Ezra Miller's right next to him, and they're like, what the hell is going on here? Stuff like that. Instead of just completely removing the embargo. And even then, the most known character embargo for the CW shows is the Atom. Originally, Brandon Routh wasn't supposed to play him. He was supposed to play Ted Kord, the second Blue Beetle. But because DC or Warner Brothers was like, we have plans for Blue Beetle in the future for movies, you cannot use him, they pretty much said, alright, we'll just turn him into the Atom. Which is why there are some ideas behind the Atom that are more towards the Blue Beetle. What I'm trying to say is the Atom isn't really that funny of a guy. He's kind of a serious dude. He makes these smart jokes. Now, the way that Brandon Routh's Atom is portrayed, he does come off as a joking, funny dude who does make mistakes, and that is, in fact, Ted Kord. That's Blue Beetle. And one of the biggest things you're starting to notice is the way that the Atom and Steel, Nate and Ray are connecting to each other. That is completely similar to how Booster Gold and Ted Kord interact within comics. Now, this is my comic book nerdiness coming out, so sorry for telling you that. But it's just a really annoying system that DC has to get rid of. I understand that they don't want to be like Marvel and they're like, oh, all these characters jumping back and forth is going to be confusing. But the thing about Marvel is it's all set in the same universe. Even if they don't want to say that the Netflix and the movie universe and TV universe are all in the same universe, even though they don't want to say it, it's kind of freaking obvious that they are one and the same. But anyways, I can't say. What do you think about this? What are your opinions on DC bringing back this crappy ass character embargo? And if you agree with it, if you think that this is actually a pretty good idea because you think people would be fully confused about, hey, why is there 2 Deathstrokes or something like that? I mean, honestly, I am seeing some people a little confused as to why they hired another actor instead of Grant. So that, in my opinion, is telling me more that people are expecting DC to come off as Marvel. But DC seeing this as they just want to constantly be making the DC Cinematic Universes, or they even said they're not calling it that, but anyways, like I said, comment down below on your thoughts and your opinions. I would really like to talk about this and discuss it in the chat below. Anyways, my name is Leo Young. Like I normally say, if you want to see more, hit the subscribe button to get access to our notification gong. If you want to support the channel, comment, like, and share with your friends and family. I'll see you in the next one. Stay impressive.